Hi, my name is Mark Walker. I'm the editorial director here at the Fintech Times, here at Seamless in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, operating for Seamless TV. And we have a great interview set up for you now. I'm going to ask Renier to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Renier Lemmens. I'm the Group CEO of Geidea, the #1 fintech in Saudi Arabia. I also still serve as chairman of a couple of fintechs in London.
We kind of can't start the interview without talking about what just happened on stage, which I was in the audience for. You did something a little bit different, a bit unique. The rhythm of Geidea.
Geidea.
What was the inspiration behind that, and why did you decide?
I guess first, most of these conference presentations are quite boring. I don't find them very bold. People avoid saying things that are remotely interesting, and they stay in the safe zone. And it's a little bit my own thing that I like to experiment, do things differently. I like making music. So last week I had this inspiration. What if I turn this into a beat of sorts? And originally the plan was to DJ something, but it morphed into making a piece of music. And I was a bit nervous because I haven't done it on stage before. But in the end, it was fun to do.
I enjoyed it, if that helps. So I thought it was very unique and different. It was a good way of putting through, especially coordinating the presentation screens to move at the right points in tune with the music. It was almost like a DJ Yoda mashup that I would have seen from.
Well, I'm Dutch, and the Dutch are famous for their DJs. I'm not quite at the stage of Tiesto, but who knows? I'm a young 58. There is still potential.
You never know. So let's talk a little bit more seriously. Obviously, the preparation and coming to Seamless. What were you looking to do? And obviously, I think you made an announcement here.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, for Seamless is a big deal for us. It was in Dubai. It is in Riyadh. This is our home market. Being a Saudi-funded fintech with most of our headquarter activities here in Saudi. So we want to make an impact. We want to make a presence that reflects our brand values and our culture values. And then in particular, we introduce a new POS suite for F&B, for food and beverage merchants, that helps them run their business, front office, back office, ERP, staff management, and the actual electronic cash register. And at the end of the day, help them make more money by selling more and by spending less.
Okay, it's kind of like an ERP system in a box type of thing, or you're not really.
It's ERP. It is kitchen management, table management, remote orders, drivers, consumer loyalty. It's a very rich suite of products, which is why I'm so excited about it. There are, of course, plenty of POS offerings in the market, but I think in its breadth and the quality of its functionality, the one that we are bringing is distinctive, and we have high hopes.
I think one of the things I noticed from your presentation earlier was the term hyper-personalization, which obviously is enabling the merchants to give much more personalization to the merchants. Is that one of the key features of the new product?
It's loyalty linked to customer profile. So in simple terms, when I show up to get my cappuccino, they would know it's a dry cappuccino, meaning a little bit of foam only, and you perhaps have a different cappuccino with a different kind of milk without us having to specify it, simply because the hyper-personalization allows them to know that it's Renier versus Mark who's placing the order.
And I think personally I see that trend, especially within sort of payments industry, hyper-personalization much wider. And I'm guessing that's something you relate to as well.
Yeah, of course, this is not just about the payment. The payment is just the final piece of the puzzle. The experience starts way before the customer pays. With, first as a retailer or a restaurant, making sure the customer chooses you rather than wherever else they could go, and then anticipating and delivering on what the customer wants.
And obviously, as a fintech, if you're doing more and more of the personalization, how does that play with the financial services play? Do you think the future is more in enabling sort of seamless, pardon the phrase, payments into merchants and focusing much more on that sort of merchant services?
I think so. I mean, the whole trend towards what we now call embedded finance, where the payment experience is almost transparent to the customer. I mean, there is not a customer in the world who wakes up in the morning and says, I'm looking forward to making a great payment today. I'm looking forward to my payment experience. No, the payment is embedded in a bigger experience, and the best payment experiences are without friction, and in the extreme without the customer noticing. Of course, within the realms of authorization and etc. But payment is not something that customers in and of itself are particularly interested in.
Absolutely, and obviously we couldn't be here in the Kingdom without talking about open banking. Obviously one of the key things that the Kingdom is working on and pushing forwards. Obviously being from the UK and Europe, we're becoming accustomed to open banking payments, which obviously are much more frictionless. How do you see them developing, and do you see that as any threat to the business model?
No, it's not a threat. Well, to an extent, whether it would be a threat or not, it's irrelevant. It will happen. And it will happen here as well. I suspect, like in other markets, there's an adoption curve. People need to get comfortable sharing your banking details. It took a few years in the UK and in Europe. It will take a few years here. For players like ourselves, we need to anticipate, we need to innovate, and ultimately embrace. If you don't embrace it, it will happen without you. And as the leader in the market, we can't afford that. So when the time is right, we'll be ready with a seamless offering for the consumer and the merchant.
Love getting the name in there every now and again. It's really good in that sense. So I know recently you expanded into Egypt. Tell us a little bit about that. What were the sort of the thoughts behind it, and obviously the challenges that you're seeing?
Egypt is a great market. It's a very big country, under 20 million people. Still very much a developing country, but in very rapid development. For those viewers who haven't been to Egypt recently or ever, it is quite unbelievable how things are happening there and how quickly they are happening. And we are very happy to be part of that. We're lucky enough to have one of the strongest teams in the market. They are showing, frankly, what commercial nows and relentless business development drive is about. And we are seeing great initial results. We only launched at the very beginning of this year. Next year we are slated for 6 or 7 times growth, depending on how things play out. So we're very, very enthusiastic about the potential of the country.
Yeah, and I'd imagine obviously Egypt, probably the second most populous country within the region, makes obvious sense to expand out into, and they're obviously how do you think they're in the same level as the Kingdom, or are they slightly behind the curve and catching?
It's a mixed answer. When it comes to overall economic development, of course they are behind. When it comes to digital penetration, they're behind relative to the Kingdom. But when you look at the level of innovation and the fintech landscape that serves, call it more the top echelons of society, it's a very vibrant and innovative ecosystem, and one that would certainly not be behind KSA or UAE for that matter.
Interesting. You mentioned slightly in your earlier answer about talent and your people. Obviously, I'm guessing as you expand, that becomes more and more relevant. The UK and Europe are going through a little bit of a talent pool drain at the moment. What's the state of talent like here in the Kingdom and the wider Middle East?
Talent is scarce, depending on the country. In Egypt, being more populous, we are very enthusiastic about the talent pool there. We have even built a regional service center to serve other countries out of Egypt. In KSA, it's a very competitive market. It is also the only market where you're competing with the government. Where both, government jobs are both highly priced and highly paid, and that's an unusual combination. So that creates an additional complication in the talent market in KSA. So between that and Saudization, which is an important imperative, part of Vision 2030 that of course we're contributing to as well. It is a tough talent market, and therefore it's important to us that we have a proposition to talent that is not simply, we pay the most, because that's untenable in any event, but we are the best company to come and work for. You'll have more development here, you have more fun here than you have somewhere else, and we see that is a proposition that works well.
I think it kind of summed it up quite nicely, as you said on stage. You do things a little bit differently, and that's right. More interesting.
That's our DNA, and it's kind of my personal DNA, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. That's just part of life, no? You experiment and you iterate.
Resilience, I think, was the other word that you said as well, yeah.
We get up and we try again.
Absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you and spending time with you. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thanks for having me, Mark.